Today we're going to talk about the fine line between veteran mental health and prison, jail, and the combination of the two. So let's get right into a story from Fox 5, a recent story that was just published on January 21st, 2025. Let's get into it.
The Coweta County District Attorney tells Fox 5 an Army veteran accused of opening fire on a deputy had mental health issues.
Yeah, reportedly stemming from his military service, they tell us. Fox 5's Doug Evans has more on that story tonight.
District Attorney Herb Cranford says that Daniel Olsen, who opened fire on a Coweta County Sheriff's deputy this month and was killed in the exchange of gunfire, had once been an Army veteran wounded in combat. Cranford's office also prosecuted Olsen for a violent 2019 road rage incident. In an email to Fox 5, Cranford writes that, quote, Olsen was an Army sniper who served 10 years and was medically retired after being injured by a hand grenade that caused traumatic brain injury.
All right, now let's talk about it. Daniel Olsen, from what I could find here, U.S. Army sniper. And it says in 2019, he was sentenced to, instead of going to prison, he had a couple of years, he accepted a plea deal and had a couple of years of probation and get mental health services. Now, I've shared before in a previous video about my interactions with law enforcement and me going to Veterans Court. And Veterans Court is a, a diversion program for veterans who are facing a jail in time or in jail or in prison. I shared my story in 2018 about what I was going through. And instead of going to jail, I served in the Cherokee County Veterans Program or Veterans Court. And my program was the Cherokee County Veterans Court program. At least back then, it was 18 months. And in the program, you do get mental health care. I mean, not allowed drugs or alcohol. When you get in, you get drug tested. You get random drug tests throughout the program. And it helps those veterans who are dealing with mental health issues, those veterans who have mental health challenges from combat and who just may have a run-in with the law and are facing jail time or time in prison. Now, in the case of Daniel Olsen, it does seem like his TBI did impact his brain. And I shared my most recent video was about the brain and how when some wires get snapped, how it just changes the way we think. And when it came to me in the past, when I was going through what I was going through, when I was deep into my mental health crisis, it was almost like the primitive brain. Only three things made me feel better. It was alcohol, random sex, and acts of violence myself. But instead of doing random acts of violence, I started to box back then and just started training to box now. And the reason I say that is because if you don't find a release, you are like a IED in Iraq. And when you explode, it's going to be the people, the places, and the things closest to you that are going to get hurt. That shrapnel is going to fly everywhere. And the people, places, and things closest to you are going to get hurt. That's going to be your family, your job, and it may cause you to lose things like your employment, your car, your spouse, or your freedom. Okay? Or your freedom. And it looks like in this case, Coweta County did try to give Mr. Olsen a chance. I live in DeKalb County, but if you know about Coweta County, and I hope I'm saying that right, I think Noonan is the major town there. But yeah, I'm very sad to see this about Mr. Olsen. He was a sniper. So I don't know. I couldn't find any public record about what his MOS was, but he was a Army sniper, and I can't find even when he deployed. But if you know anything about being a sniper, you only have one mission: engage the enemy and kill him. Engage the enemy and shoot to kill. Now, don't know how much killing Mr. Olsen did and when he deployed, but you know, when you come back, sometimes that it just gets to you. You know, there's certain smells like. For me, it was burning grass. Sometimes when I'm driving down the street and I smell burning grass, boom, that smells like Iraq. Damn. Sometimes for some people, burning flesh. There may be things that you see, that you hear, that you taste that reminds you of going back to combat or being in combat, and you can't get those things out of your mind. So it also says he dealt with a TBI after getting hit with a hand grenade. So don't know the extent of his injuries when it comes to that. I didn't have a TBI, but I did have a concussion after getting hit with a mortar round, jumping into a bunker. I did have a concussion. But Fox 5 also did a story, and I was a part of that story when it comes to something called House Bill 1013. And it sounds like what Mr. Olsen had in 2019 was a mental health crisis. And House Bill 219 is a mental health parity act that we all advocated for. This is back when I was a vice president of NAMI, DeKalb, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And we went there with our signs and we advocated on the front steps, and Fox 5, they interviewed a couple of us and I got to talk for a while. But during a mental health emergency, what happens? So you'll call 911 and they'll come with someone who's trained in mental health. And instead of engaging with the police, or instead of on something unlike this unfortunately happening, they'll try to talk you off that ledge. Hey, Mr. Kendrick, in my case, put the weapon down, or let's just talk about what happened. Where did you serve? What are you going through right now? Anything you can do to have something like what happened in Mr. Olsen's case to avoid that. Unfortunately, it didn't happen during this time, and he engaged in a shootout with the police and he lost his life. A Purple Heart veteran, just like myself, is gone due to these mental health issues that I advocate so much about. But let's talk about House Bill 1013, and if you don't know what it is, maybe you can find out what it is in your state. So there's so many different mental health emergency calls that the police get, and somebody may be armed, somebody may have a knife, somebody may, be posing a threat to the public. And what a lot of people don't think about is police, at the end of the day, they're people too. We may see the badge and the uniform, but nobody can tell me what makes me fearful of my life. That's why you hear so many officers say, their defense is, well, I feared for my life and I took action. So when it comes to these mental health calls, a mental health call to 1013 here in the state of Georgia, you go out, 2 officers go out, one that's trained. I believe they have crisis intervention training, which is 40 hours a week of crisis intervention training, where they know what a crisis is like, and they try to de-escalate, defuse that IED so it doesn't explode, and there are no shots fired, and nobody loses their life, either law enforcement or the alleged suspect, in whatever case you may have. It's so important, because in some cases, after you get treated, you may get your weapons taken away for a while, so you're not a danger to you or anyone else in your household, which I've talked to people and they said, thank God, because I was a ticking time bomb. And you get those mental health resources that you need to feel better again. I've shared that I had to do a 1013 on myself when I went to back here in Atlanta back in the day. Our mental health clinics were in East Point, Georgia, and I had the best therapist of my life. And I just got sentenced to my Veterans Court. And I said, Doc, man, if I go back home, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. They always ask you before a mental health appointment, do you feel like harming yourself or others? And in this case that I was in, my answer was yes. And Doc asked me, she said, well, which one, yourself or others? And I said, honestly, I don't know. I don't know. And like I said earlier, it goes back to that violence, whenever there's any type of mass shooting or anything like that, we always have this discussion in America. Is it the mental health or is it the guns? And it's a combination of both. We live in America. We have more guns than people here. And we have a lot of people dealing with mental health issues. So I believe, unfortunately, this is something we're going to be dealing with in America for eternity. However, something like House Bill 1013 can assess the situation, see if this person is in their right mind, or see if they should be around weapons. And hey, let's just take these away for 2 weeks or maybe a month so you can get the services that you need and come back in your household safe. so you don't lose those people, places, and things that are close to you, so that bomb doesn't explode. Okay, and nobody has to go to jail. Nobody loses their freedom. Nobody loses their spouse. Nobody loses their livelihood. Nobody loses their life. Ladies and gentlemen, Lion Speaking Agency started for cases just like this. I was in Colorado in a WTU, and I saw soldiers who were in their barracks rooms, passed out, or who had committed suicide because they didn't know how to voice what they were going through. And I see cases like Mr. Olsen's all the time, and that's why I get on stage. The Lion stands for getting on stage, being proud, roaring loud and proud for people who don't know how to advocate for themselves or just don't know what they're going through. And me as a Purple Heart veteran advocating for other Purple Heart veterans who are here and those who are not here, it means the world to me because my military career was so short after getting shot. This is my way to still serve. And if you want to hear more about me or what I do, or just talk to me, leave me a comment down below. If you like content like this, like, share, and subscribe. If you want to bring me in for a speech, visit me at www.dkendrickjr.com. Ladies and gentlemen, be bold, be brave, be you. Peace.